Let's go ahead and summarize real quick what it is that Plato understands when it comes to anthropology and life after death and his entire philosophy, really. If Plato is understood as an individualist and a dualist who wants to get away from the biological and material world and enter into a flight into the beyond that leaves the earthly behind, right? Then Plato is fundamentally misconstrued, which is interesting because that is a very popular view of what Platonism is. Rather, Plato's project was actually to ground and make possible the political sphere and the individual's life, right, within the political sphere. So Plato's entire project is not an individualist escape from the political, but actually his project is meant to stabilize and ground the political society that was being threatened with extinction. So the entire intention behind Plato's philosophy is the survival of this worldly state of affairs. But how does he do that? He does it by grounding that survival in something that transcends mere biology and mere politics. He grounds it in this idea of the good, right? His metaphysics of being is grounded in the good, and the ethics of Plato flow out from his metaphysics, with the chief virtue being justice, and that structures the polis and ensures its survival and its stability. So you see, Plato here makes a paradoxical move that is precisely concerned with the earthly. He wants to secure the survival of the biological by grounding it in something more than biological, and what he would say is more real. That's why the biological is a shadow compared to justice, truth, and the good itself, right? Which is real reality, the really real. But this schema is precisely what allows Plato to ensure the survival of politics and of the individual human beings in the polis. So you see, it's not some kind of escapism. Platonism is not escapism, right? It's actually very concerned with practical affairs in our world, here and now, in the tangible world. But it does have this lofty metaphysics, right? Now we see here how there's this schema in Plato, which is that by positing something more than biological as a really real, right, then we make the biological able to survive and to exist, right? And for this schema to be established, Socrates is an example that when he dies for justice, he's not dying a meaningless life, he's dying a meaningful life by entering into a fuller kind of life, by entering into the good itself. So Socrates is the just philosopher who has a martyrdom that is made religious by Plato in a way that kind of grounds, you might say, the political philosophy of Plato. And so you just have this interesting, for lack of a better term, dualism, but it's a kind of, it's not a radical dualism. It's not a substance dualism necessarily, but it's more of a spectrum between the really real and the less real. And death for Plato, if it's done well, if you die well, right, is an entering into the really real. And that way of seeing things is what actually makes biological, earthly, political life stable, possible, and ensures its survival. That's why Plato is not an individualist who wants to fly into the beyond and leave things behind and sees matter and the political in this world as bad. That's not at all Plato.